I'm Abigail, 28, and 7 months pregnant with my first child. My husband Tyler didn't move a muscle as I struggled up 3 flights of stairs with our weekly groceries, my belly making each step a challenge. He remained glued to his video game controllers in hand, laughing with his friends. When I finally set down the heavy bag, sweating and breathless, he looked me up and down and said those words I'll never forget. Instead of crying, I just smiled. He had no idea what those next 72 hours would bring. If you're watching this, I'd love to know where you're from. Hit that like button and subscribe to join our community of survivors. Have you ever reached your breaking point with someone who was supposed to love you? Let me know in the comments. Your story matters too. I met Tyler 4 years ago at a housewarming party thrown by our mutual friend Jessica. I was 24 then, fresh out of art school and building my photography portfolio while working at a local gallery in Minneapolis. The moment he walked in, I noticed him, tall with dark hair and an easy confidence that filled the room. He approached me as I was examining a painting on the wall, asking thoughtful questions about composition and light that surprised me. "You clearly know your stuff," I said, impressed by his knowledge. "My mom's an art teacher," he explained with a charming smile. "I grew up surrounded by conversations about visual theory." By the end of the night, he had my number. The next day, flowers arrived at my apartment with a note referencing our conversation about Georgia O'Keeffe. I was smitten by his thoughtfulness and attention to detail. Our first date was at a small photography exhibition featuring emerging local artists. He listened intently as I explained why certain pieces worked and others didn't. When I mentioned my dream of having my own gallery showing someday, he took my hand and said, "You're far more talented than anyone here. I can already see your name on the exhibition flyer." The whirlwind romance that followed was everything I'd dreamed of. Tyler remembered every detail I shared. My favorite coffee order, the book I was reading, the photographers I admired. He planned thoughtful dates to art museums and photography studios. He surprised me with a vintage film camera I'd been eyeing for months, claiming he just happened to see it in a shop window. "You deserve beautiful things," he'd say, brushing hair from my face with a gentleness that made my heart race. Looking back, I should have noticed how he studied my reactions, cataloging what pleased me and what didn't. It wasn't organic interest, but research, learning the most effective ways to win me over. After just 6 months, Tyler proposed during a weekend trip to his family's cabin. I said yes without hesitation. When I called my parents with the news, they expressed concern about the speed of our relationship. "You've only known him half a year, Abby," my mother said cautiously. "Maybe a longer engagement would be wise." But Tyler was insistent on a quick wedding. "When you know," he said, nuzzling my neck. "Why wait when we could start our life together now?" We married after dating for just a year, a small ceremony at a local botanical garden with only close friends and family. My parents attended but couldn't quite hide their reservation. My father pulled me aside at the reception. "You know you can always come home, Abby, no matter what," he said, his eyes serious. At the time, I thought he was being old-fashioned. Now I understand he was trying to ensure I knew I had an escape route. The red flags were there from the beginning, waving boldly, but I was colorblind with love. When Tyler suggested my favorite jeans made me look a little heavy, I went shopping for new ones. When he questioned why I needed to stay out so late at a friend's birthday, I started coming home earlier. When he installed a location-sharing app on my phone for safety, I didn't object. My photography career was just beginning to take off. A small local gallery had agreed to include 3 of my pieces in an emerging artist's showcase. The night of the opening, Tyler arrived late, having forgotten it was that evening. He stood in front of my photographs with a critical eye. "They're good," he said with a shrug. "But don't you think the composition is a bit amateur? The lighting seems off." His words injected doubt into what should have been a moment of pride. Later that night, the gallery owner approached me with interest in a solo exhibition. When I excitedly told Tyler, he frowned. "Are you sure you're ready for that? You don't want to put yourself out there before you've really refined your style. First impressions matter in the art world." His concern seemed reasonable, protective even. So I told the gallery owner I needed more time. That opportunity never came around again. We moved into a third-floor apartment in an old building without elevators shortly after our wedding. Tyler had chosen it because it was close to his office at a marketing firm where he worked as an account executive. He talked constantly about his career trajectory, the clients he was impressing, the promotion that was surely coming. "I'm going to provide us with an amazing life." He'd promised, spinning dreams of a house in the suburbs, vacations in Europe, and eventually a family. I believed every word. Why wouldn't I? He was my husband, and husbands were supposed to be your partner, your protector, your biggest supporter. I couldn't have been more wrong. The shift in Tyler's behavior was so gradual that I didn't notice it happening like a frog in slowly heating water. His suggestions about my appearance evolved from occasional comments to daily critiques. "That shirt makes your arms look flabby," he'd say as I dressed for work. "Maybe skip dessert tonight. You've put on a few pounds since the wedding." "Why are you wearing your hair like that? It looks messy. Fix it before we go." What had once seemed like helpful advice now came with an edge of contempt. If I objected, he'd sigh dramatically and say, "I'm just trying to help you look your best. Sorry for caring." 6 months into our marriage, Tyler began checking my phone regularly. He'd pick it up casually while we watched TV, scrolling through my texts and emails. When I questioned this invasion of privacy, he seemed genuinely confused. "We're married, Abby. Married people don't keep secrets from each other. Unless there's something you're hiding." The question was always posed with just enough suspicion to make me defensive, to make me want to prove my innocence by surrendering my privacy. So I did. My friendships began to suffer under Tyler's constant criticism. My college friend Megan was clearly jealous of our relationship. My coworker Jamie was probably in love with you the way he texts you about work after hours. My childhood friend Zoe was a bad influence with her single lifestyle. One by one, I contacted them less frequently, declined invitations, missed birthday celebrations. It was easier than dealing with Tyler's cold shoulder or pointed questions afterward. My parents noticed the change in me during their increasingly rare visits. My mother called more often, her voice careful as she asked how things were going. Tyler always hovered during these calls, sometimes putting his ear next to mine to listen in, other times simply sitting across from me watching my expressions. "Everything's fine, Mom," became my standard response. "Just busy with work and life." Work was actually my sanctuary. I had taken a job at a different gallery after our wedding where I assisted with curation and continued developing my own photography on the side. Tyler initially supported this, especially since my income was steady while he was building his career. But a year into our marriage, something changed. Tyler came home one evening unusually quiet. When I asked about his day, he exploded. "I got passed over for the promotion, again, because that idiot Ryan brown-nosed his way into it." He fumed, pacing our small living room. "3 years I've given that company, and this is how they repay my loyalty." I tried to comfort him, suggesting he speak with his manager about a path forward, but my words only angered him more. "You don't get it, Abby. Not everyone gets handed opportunities like you do because they're pretty and know how to flirt with gallery owners." The accusation stung, but I attributed it to his disappointment. I didn't know then that Tyler hadn't been passed over for a promotion. He'd been put on a performance improvement plan for missing deadlines and displaying aggressive behavior toward colleagues. 2 months later, he lost his job entirely. But he didn't tell me. Each morning, he left the apartment dressed for work, carrying his laptop bag. Each evening, he returned at his usual time, complaining about office politics and difficult clients. I didn't discover the truth until I answered a call from his company's HR department, asking if Tyler had received his final paycheck. When confronted, Tyler blamed everyone but himself. "They were threatened by my potential," he insisted. "The whole company is going downhill anyway. I'm better off without them." He promised he was actively job hunting, but weeks turned into months with no interviews. Instead, Tyler's life increasingly revolved around his gaming console. He formed online friendships with other gamers, spending hours with a headset on, shouting commands and laughing at inside jokes I wasn't part of. Meanwhile, I picked up additional shifts at the gallery and started freelancing as an event photographer on weekends to cover our bills. Tyler explained his unemployment as a temporary setback, assuring me his next position would more than make up for this difficult period. "You're so good with the camera, Abby," he'd say when I returned exhausted from shooting a wedding. It's perfect that you can pick up this extra work while I'm between jobs. We're a team, right? But our apartment filled with new gaming equipment, the latest console premium controllers, a high-end gaming chair, while I worried about making rent. When I questioned these purchases, Tyler became defensive. I need these tools to network in the gaming industry. I'm considering a complete career change into game development or streaming. This is an investment in our future. The investment never paid off. As my work hours increased, my social circle continued to shrink. Even casual conversations with colleagues became subject to Tyler's interrogations. Who was there? What did you talk about? Did any men flirt with you? It was exhausting, but I told myself this was temporary. Things would get better when Tyler found a new job, when we were more financially stable, when he felt more secure. I made excuses for him because admitting the truth was too frightening. I had married a man who was systematically isolating and controlling me, and I didn't know how to escape. The pregnancy wasn't planned, at least not by me. I'd been diligent about taking my birth control pills, but 3 months after Tyler lost his job, I found myself staring at a positive pregnancy test. Tyler, I called from the bathroom, my voice shaking. Can you come here? He appeared in the doorway, irritated at being interrupted during a gaming session. When I wordlessly held up the test, his expression transformed. We're having a baby, he asked, suddenly attentive in a way he hadn't been in months. I nodded, still processing the news myself. Tyler wrapped me in a tight hug, lifting me off my feet despite my protests. This is perfect timing, he declared. I've been thinking about focusing on my streaming career full-time anyway. This way I can be home with the baby while you work. Your job has better benefits. His enthusiasm confused me. We'd discussed children in abstract terms, someday in the future when we were more established. But watching Tyler's excitement, I allowed myself to hope. Maybe this baby would be the reset our marriage needed. Maybe impending fatherhood would motivate Tyler to find steady work to be the partner I'd thought I was marrying. For a few weeks, Tyler was attentive and loving. He accompanied me to my first prenatal appointment, asked questions about the baby's development, and even cleaned the apartment without being asked. But as my first trimester nausea set in, his patience quickly waned. Do you have to throw up so loudly? He complained one morning as I hunched over the toilet. I can hear you from the bedroom. It's disgusting. By my 4th month, when the nausea subsided and my belly began to show, Tyler's comments took a new direction. You're getting big already, he observed as I dressed for work. Are you sure you're not eating too much? The doctor said you only need an extra 300 calories. I'm right on track with weight gain, I assured him. The baby is growing normally. Tyler poked my rounding stomach. Just be careful. Some women never lose the baby weight and then their husbands aren't attracted to them anymore. His words cut deep, but I pushed aside my hurt. Stress wasn't good for the baby, I reminded myself. And surely Tyler was just nervous about the changes coming to our lives. But while I was preparing for our child's arrival, reading parenting books, researching childcare options, working extra hours to save money for when I'd be on maternity leave, Tyler remained unemployed. His half-hearted job search had stopped entirely. Instead, he'd set up a Twitch account and began streaming his gaming sessions, though his viewer counts rarely broke double digits. It takes time to build an audience, he explained when I questioned the $0 this career was generating. The big streamers make millions. I just need to find my niche. His gaming friends began coming over to our apartment regularly. They'd arrive with cases of beer and bags of chips, settling in for hours-long sessions, while I tried to work on freelance editing in our bedroom. The noise made concentration impossible, and the mess they left behind added to my growing list of chores. As my pregnancy progressed and my body changed, Tyler's comments became crueler. If I ate a cookie, he'd ask if I really needed the extra sugar. If I wore a fitted maternity top, he'd say it made me look like a whale. If I was too tired for intimacy, he'd sulk and suggest that pregnancy was ruining our relationship. His friends witnessed this behavior and said nothing, sometimes even chuckling along with his jokes. Their silent complicity made me feel even more isolated. My baby shower, organized by a kind coworker, became another opportunity for Tyler's humiliation. As I opened gifts of tiny clothes and nursery items, Tyler loudly commented, "Where are the gifts for the dad? I'm the one who has to look at her getting bigger every day." The room fell into uncomfortable silence. My coworker Angela quickly changed the subject, but the damage was done. Later, when we were alone, she asked me point blank if everything was okay at home. "Tyler's just nervous about becoming a father," I said automatically. "He jokes when he's anxious." Angela didn't look convinced. "That's not joking, Abby. That's cruelty. And it's not okay." Her words stayed with me, a small crack in the wall of denial I'd built around my marriage. My parents visited when I reached 6 months, having not seen us in person for nearly a year. My mother gasped when I opened the door, not just at my pregnant belly, but at the visible exhaustion etched on my face. "Abigail," she whispered, pulling me into a gentle hug. "Oh, sweetheart." During their 3-day visit, Tyler was on his best behavior, playing the role of devoted husband and father-to-be. But my parents weren't fooled. The night before they left, my father cornered me in the kitchen while Tyler was showering. "This isn't right, Abby," he said, gesturing to the apartment where I did all the cleaning, cooking, and bill paying despite being heavily pregnant. "You're working 2 jobs while he plays video games. The way he speaks to you, your mother and I are worried." "It's temporary," I insisted, the familiar excuse feeling hollow even to my own ears. "Once the baby comes, men like Tyler don't change when life gets harder." My father interrupted, his voice gentle but firm. "They get worse. Please know you can come home any time. With the baby, no questions asked." I nodded, tears threatening, but I still wasn't ready to admit what my life had become. I still believed I could make it work for the baby's sake. Little did I know the breaking point was just around the corner. At 7 months pregnant, every movement required extra effort. My center of gravity had shifted, my back ached constantly, and simple tasks left me breathless. But our refrigerator was empty, and Tyler had forgotten to order grocery delivery again. "I'll go to the store." I sighed, struggling to put on my shoes without being able to see my feet. Tyler didn't look up from his game. "Pick up some more Mountain Dew and those spicy chips. Oh, and we need beer. Dave and Mike are coming over tonight." I bit back a retort. What was the point? Instead, I grabbed my purse and headed out to the neighborhood market 3 blocks away. The August heat was stifling the humidity, making my maternity clothes stick to my skin as I waddled down the sidewalk. Shopping took longer than usual. I had to rest frequently, finding excuses to lean against shelves or cooler doors when the lightheadedness hit. The cashier looked concerned as she rang up my items. "Do you need help getting these home, honey?" she asked, eyeing my pregnant belly and the heavy bags. "No, thank you," I replied automatically. "My husband will help me bring them up." The lie tasted bitter on my tongue. The walk back felt eternal. The grocery bags cut into my fingers, the weight pulling on my already strained lower back. By the time I reached our building, I was sweating profusely, my maternity dress darkened with perspiration. 3 flights of stairs, 66 steps that might as well have been Mount Everest. I could hear male voices and laughter from our apartment as I began the climb. First flight, I had to stop twice, setting the bags down to catch my breath. Second flight. A sharp pain in my side made me gasp. I leaned against the wall, counting breaths until it subsided. Third flight, I was practically crawling, dragging the bags beside me 1 step at a time. When I finally reached our door, I could barely knock. I tried the handle, unlocked, and pushed it open with my shoulder. The scene inside was exactly as I'd left it, except now Tyler had 2 friends over. All 3 sat on our couch, controllers in hand, empty cans of the previous beer supply scattered around them. None of them looked up as I struggled through the door with the groceries. "Tyler," I managed between heavy breaths, "can you help with the bags?" "In a minute," he responded, eyes fixed on the screen. "We're in the middle of a match." I stood there sweating and in pain, waiting for the match to end. It didn't. Instead, another began immediately after. With a deep breath, I hauled the groceries to the kitchen myself, the bags thudding heavily on the counter. The sound finally drew Tyler's attention. "Did you get everything on the list?" he called. I didn't answer, too focused on unpacking the items before my trembling legs gave out. I could feel sweat trickling down my back, my face flushed with exertion. My hands shook as I placed a carton of milk in the refrigerator. Finally, the task complete, I collapsed onto a kitchen chair, running a hand over my swollen belly to soothe the baby, who was kicking vigorously, perhaps sensing my distress. Tyler wandered into the kitchen during a break, his friends following to grab fresh beers from the refrigerator I'd just stocked. He looked me up and down, his expression twisting with disgust. "Jesus, Abby, you look awful," he said loudly. "You're all red and sweaty." I looked up at him, too exhausted to even feel hurt. "I just carried 6 bags of groceries up 3 flights of stairs, while 7 months pregnant." "Well, you're getting disgusting to look at," he continued, cracking open a beer. "You better lose that weight fast after the baby comes, or I'll find someone who actually takes care of herself." His friends snickered, one of them adding, "Pregnancy ruins women, man. My cousin's wife still looks like a cow 2 years later." I should have cried. I should have screamed. I should have thrown something at his smug, cruel face. But in that moment, a strange calm settled over me. With perfect clarity, I knew this marriage was over. Not just damaged or difficult, completely irrevocably finished. So I smiled. A small, knowing smile that seemed to confuse Tyler. "What's that look for?" he asked, suddenly uncertain. "Nothing," I replied quietly. "Just thinking about the future." He shrugged, already losing interest in the conversation, and returned to the living room with his friends. I remained at the kitchen table, my hand protectively cradling my belly, as a plan began to form in my mind. This child deserved better than a father who spoke to their mother with such contempt. I deserved better than a husband who would let me struggle upstairs while he played video games. 3 days. That's how long it would take me to extract myself from this marriage safely. 72 hours to freedom. As I finally stood and began preparing dinner, which Tyler and his friends would eat without thanks, I felt the baby kick again, strong and determined. "I hear you," I whispered. "We're getting out of here. Both of us." That night, after Tyler fell into a beer-induced sleep, I slipped out of bed and retrieved my old laptop from the back of the closet. Tyler had borrowed my newer one months ago when his gaming desktop needed repairs, never returning it despite my requests. The old machine wheezed to life, its fan humming loudly in the darkness of our bathroom. I sat on the closed toilet lid, door locked, as I created a new email account Tyler wouldn't know about. My hands trembled slightly as I composed a message to my parents. "Mom and Dad, I need help. I'm leaving Tyler. Please don't call. He checks my phone. Email this account only. I'll explain everything soon. Love, Abby." I stared at the screen for a long moment before hitting send. The simple act of asking for help felt both terrifying and liberating. For so long, I'd been carrying the weight of my failing marriage alone, making excuses for Tyler's behavior, hiding the truth from those who loved me. Now the words were out there, impossible to take back. Within minutes, a reply appeared. "We're here for you, sweetheart. Tell us what you need. We can come get you tomorrow. Love, Mom and Dad." Tears blurred my vision as I typed my response. "Not yet. Need to plan carefully. We'll contact in 72 hours with details. Please be ready." With that first crucial step taken, I opened a new document and began methodically listing what I needed to do. The organizational skills Tyler had mocked as obsessive would now be my salvation. Day 1. Gather important documents and essentials. Day 2. Secure finances and legal protection. Day 3. Execute the final steps while Tyler is out. I'd been secretly preparing for this moment longer than I cared to admit. The just-in-case folder hidden in my work tote contained copies of our marriage certificate, my birth certificate, and prenatal medical records. I'd been squirreling away small amounts of cash from my photography jobs, hiding $20 bills inside tampons boxes Tyler would never touch. While working a baby shower photography session last month, I'd overheard a conversation about a women's support group. I'd discreetly taken the pamphlet offered by the organizer, memorizing the hotline number before destroying the evidence. Now that preparation would pay off. Back in bed, I lay awake beside the snoring man I'd once believed would be my partner for life. The baby shifted inside me, a reminder of what was at stake. This wasn't just about me anymore. Morning came too quickly. I rose before Tyler preparing his favorite breakfast, as if nothing had changed. When he stumbled out of the bedroom, I greeted him with a kiss on the cheek. "You're cheery this morning," he observed suspiciously. "Just feeling better," I replied, sliding a plate of eggs and bacon toward him. "The walk yesterday must have done me good." He grunted, attention already shifting to his phone. While he ate, I casually mentioned plans for the day. "I have that maternity photo shoot at the park this afternoon, remember? Then I need to finish editing the Johnson wedding. I'll probably be late." Tyler nodded absently. "Dave's coming over again. We're practicing for the tournament this weekend." Perfect. The tournament was exactly what I needed. Tyler would be gone for hours on Saturday, giving me the window I required for the final phase of my plan. As soon as Tyler was absorbed in his game, I began my carefully orchestrated dance. During bathroom breaks, I slipped important documents from their hiding places into my work bag. While doing laundry, I subtly set aside a few essential clothing items in a hidden corner of the closet. During a supposed work call, I actually contacted my former photography mentor, Rachel, who immediately understood the coded language of my request. "Of course I can store some equipment for your upcoming shoot," she said, catching on quickly. "Drop it by today if you'd like." While running an errand for work, I opened a new bank account at a different branch than our joint one, depositing half of my recent paycheck directly. Not enough for Tyler to notice missing, but enough to give me a starting point. I also called our landlord from a coffee shop payphone, explaining that a family emergency would require us to break our lease. He was surprisingly understanding when I hinted at the nature of the emergency. "My sister went through something similar," he said quietly. "Don't worry about the deposit. Just leave the keys in the mailbox when you go." Each small action brought me closer to freedom, each decision strengthening my resolve. The calm that had settled over me the previous evening remained guiding my movements with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. When I returned home that evening, Tyler barely acknowledged my entrance, too engrossed in his game to notice the lighter step in my walk or the determined glint in my eye. "Did you get dinner?" he called out without looking away from the screen. "There's leftover pasta in the fridge," I replied, heading to the bedroom to change clothes and to hide the USB drive containing digital copies of our financial records that I'd printed at the library. Day 1 complete, 1/3 of the way to freedom. The second day required even more careful orchestration. I had an actual prenatal appointment scheduled, which provided perfect cover for several crucial stops. First, the Women's Support Center I'd researched, where a counselor named Marta helped me document the pattern of emotional abuse in my marriage. She connected me with a lawyer who specialized in domestic violence cases, who agreed to see me immediately. "Financial abuse is still abuse," the lawyer Denise explained as I described how Tyler had gradually taken control of our money despite contributing nothing. "And verbal abuse often escalates, especially during vulnerable times like pregnancy." She helped me draft an emergency protection order that could be filed immediately if needed, though I chose to hold off until I was safely away. She also provided guidance on how to document our joint assets and debts, critical information for the divorce proceedings that would follow. "Take only what is undisputably yours," she advised. "Personal items, family heirlooms, documents, and a reasonable portion of joint funds. Leave detailed records of what you've taken and what remains." My next stop was a program for pregnant women in transition, where I secured temporary housing in a secure building with restricted access. The program coordinator, a gentle-voiced woman named Helen, walked me through the intake process with efficiency and compassion. "We can have a room ready for you by Saturday," she confirmed. "It's small but private with a separate bathroom. You'll have access to our communal kitchen and laundry facilities." The weight on my shoulders lightened further. "Thank you," I whispered, fighting tears. "I don't know what I would have done without this option." "That's why we're here," Helen replied, squeezing my hand. "No one should have to choose between safety and shelter." My final appointment that day was with my obstetrician, Dr. Wong, who noticed my improved spirits immediately. "You seem different today, Abigail," she observed as she measured my growing belly. I hesitated before confiding in her. "I'm leaving my husband this weekend." Her hands paused briefly before continuing their examination. "I suspected something wasn't right at home," she said carefully. Your stress levels have been concerning. I didn't realize it showed that much. The body keeps score, she replied simply. Especially during pregnancy. Do you have a safe place to go? I nodded, explaining my arrangements. Good. I'm going to make a note in your file about the situation and flag it for hospital security just in case. When you're settled, call my office with your new contact information. Her matter-of-fact support brought fresh tears to my eyes. The baby's okay, though, with all this stress. Dr. Wang smiled reassuringly. Your little one is perfectly healthy. Strong heartbeat, good growth. Babies are resilient, and so are their mothers. That night, I returned home to find Tyler in an unusually good mood. His streaming channel had gained 10 new subscribers, and he'd received his first small donation. See, I told you this would work out, he crowed, pulling me into an uncomfortable hug. This is just the beginning. Soon I'll be making real money. I forced a smile. That's great, Tyler. Really. I'm thinking we should celebrate this weekend after the tournament. Maybe actually go out somewhere nice. You can wear something that hides the baby bump a bit. The casual cruelty of his words no longer had the power to wound me. In less than 24 hours, I would be free of his constant criticism, his empty promises, his suffocating presence. Sounds nice. I lied, mentally calculating what else I needed to pack while he slept. Day 2 complete, 2/3 of the way there. The final day arrived with a strange sense of unreality. This would be my last morning in the apartment I'd called home for 3 years, my last day as Tyler's wife in any meaningful sense. Despite everything, a hint of sadness crept in, not for what I was losing, but for what I had hoped this marriage would be. Tyler left early for his gaming tournament, kissing me distractedly on the forehead. Should be back around 6, he said, gathering his specialized controllers. The guys might come over after to celebrate when we win. Good luck, I replied, the irony of my well wishes lost on him. The door had barely closed behind him when I sprang into action. My parents had driven through the night, arriving at a nearby hotel at dawn. One quick text from my new prepaid phone brought them to the apartment within 30 minutes. Oh, Abby, my mother gasped, pulling me into a gentle embrace. Her eyes took in my exhausted face, my swollen belly, the apartment that showed no signs of a husband's contribution. My father said nothing, simply holding me for a long moment before asking, "What can we do? Help me pack," I replied, pulling out the suitcases I'd hidden in the back of the guest closet. I've made a list of what needs to come with me. We worked methodically, efficiently. Clothes, toiletries, prenatal vitamins, the baby items I'd purchased myself, my photography equipment and portfolio, the quilt my grandmother had made me, the jewelry box containing my mother's pearl earrings and my own meager collection, but not the wedding ring which I placed deliberately on Tyler's gaming desk with the letter from my lawyer. I left behind all the furniture, kitchen items, and joint purchases. This wasn't about property. It was about freedom. I took only what I needed to start over, what couldn't be replaced, what was meaningfully mine. As we prepared to leave, I stood in the center of the living room, taking one last look around. So many memories in these walls, some good in the beginning, but too many painful ones overshadowing them now. Ready, sweetheart? My father asked, car keys in hand. I nodded, resting one hand on my belly. More than ready. We closed the door on that chapter of my life at exactly 2:37 p.m. By 3:15, my belongings were settled in the small but clean room at the Women's Transitional Housing Program. By 4:00, my parents and I were sharing an early dinner at a cafe far from the apartment, discussing next steps. You'll stay with us once the baby comes, my mother insisted. The guest room is already set up with a crib. Just until I find my feet again, I agreed. I want to rebuild my photography business, maybe specialize in maternity and newborn portraits. One step at a time, my father advised, his eyes still worried but proud. For now, just focus on keeping yourself and the baby healthy. They left reluctantly around 5, needing to check into their hotel for the night before returning to help me settle in the next day. I returned to my new temporary home, arranged my few possessions, and sat on the narrow bed waiting. At 6:22 p.m., my phone lit up with Tyler's name. I let it ring. It rang again at 6:24, and 6:26, and 6:30. At 6:35, the texts began. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? What the fuck, Abby? Did you take my controllers? It took him nearly 20 minutes to notice the letter and ring on his desk. Is this a joke? You can't just leave. Where are you? You're pregnant with my child. You can't do this to me. The texts grew increasingly desperate, then angry, then pleading as the evening wore on. By midnight, he'd called 37 times and sent over 50 messages, cycling through rage, manipulation, and false remorse with dizzying speed. I'm sorry for whatever I did. You're overreacting as usual. Please come home, I need you. You ungrateful bitch, after everything I've done for you. I'll change, I promise. You'll regret this. No one will want you now. I read each message with a strange detachment, as if they were being sent to someone else. The Tyler revealed in these texts was the real one, volatile, controlling, cruel when denied his way. His words only confirmed I'd made the right decision. At 1:13 a.m., I sent a single response. Do not contact me again. All communication will be through my lawyer from now on. Then I blocked his number, turned off my phone, and slept more peacefully than I had in years. The 72 hours after I left Tyler were just the beginning of my journey toward healing and independence. His initial shock quickly transformed into a calculated campaign to force my return. First came the desperate phone calls, to my parents who blocked him, to my workplace who refused to give him information, to mutual friends, most of whom took his side initially, having only heard his version of events. When those failed, he showed up at my parents' house, certain I must be staying there. My father, normally the gentlest of men, stood firm in the doorway. She doesn't want to see you, Tyler, he said calmly. You need to respect that. She's my wife, Tyler had shouted loud enough for neighbors to hear. She's carrying my child, I have rights. When my father didn't budge, Tyler's true colors emerged. You put her up to this, didn't you? You never thought I was good enough for your precious daughter. You turned her against me. My father's response was measured. You did that all by yourself, son. Tyler's escalating behavior led my parents to call the police, who escorted him from their property with a warning. The incident provided valuable documentation for the restraining order my lawyer filed the following day. The formal legal notice being served seemed to trigger something darker in Tyler. His tactics shifted from desperate pleas to vicious attacks. He created multiple fake social media accounts to bypass my blocks, sending messages that alternated between maudlin apologies and vile accusations. I know you're sleeping with someone else. That's the real reason you left. You'll be a terrible mother. You're too selfish. No one will ever love you like I did. You'll regret throwing that away. Each message revealed more clearly the man I'd been married to, but had refused to see clearly. The restraining order covered digital communication, giving me legal recourse for his harassment, but it couldn't completely shield me from the emotional impact of his words. 2 weeks after I left, Tyler's friend Mike reached out through my lawyer with an unexpected revelation. Tyler's been cheating on you, he admitted during our carefully arranged phone call. For at least a year, different women he met gaming online. Sometimes when you were working late. I thought you should know. The information should have devastated me. Instead, it brought a strange sense of relief, further confirmation that leaving had been the only sane choice. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Mike's voice was heavy with regret. I should have said something sooner. The way he treated you, it wasn't right, especially when you were pregnant. I'm sorry for not speaking up. His apology was small comfort after years of silent complicity, but I accepted it as the imperfect gesture of accountability it was. Tyler's parents were the next unexpected factor in the unfolding drama. They appeared at my lawyer's office unannounced, demanding to speak with me. Denise, my attorney, offered to sit in on the meeting. Tyler says you've had some kind of breakdown, his mother began, her voice sharp with accusation. That pregnancy hormones have made you irrational. I placed the folder of evidence on the table between us. Screenshots of Tyler's texts, financial records showing his lack of contribution, photographs of the empty beer cans, and mess left for me to clean while heavily pregnant. This has been my reality for years, I said quietly. Your son hasn't worked in 18 months. He's emotionally abusive. He's been unfaithful. and when I was struggling upstairs with groceries at 7 months pregnant, he called me disgusting while playing video games with his friends. The color drained from his father's face as he flipped through the documentation. "We had no idea," he murmured. "You never asked," I replied. You accepted his version without question. They left subdued, promising to talk to Tyler. Whatever conversation followed must have been illuminating because Tyler's parents never contacted me again directly. Instead, they sent a brief note through my lawyer expressing their hope that I would allow them some relationship with their grandchild when the time is right. Meanwhile, I was building a new life from the fragments of my old one. The women's housing program connected me with resources I never knew existed: support groups for domestic abuse survivors, career counseling, financial literacy classes. I met other women with similar stories, their circumstances different, but their experiences achingly familiar. "The first few months are the hardest," advised Maria, a mother of two who had left her abusive husband the previous year. "They try everything to get you back, but it gets easier. You get stronger." She was right. As my due date approached and Tyler's attempts at contact became less frequent, I felt myself expanding into the space his absence had created. I reconnected with friends who had drifted away during my marriage, rebuilt my relationship with my parents, and even secured a part-time position at a photography studio that specialized in family portraits. "We can work around your schedule after the baby comes," the owner, Jean, assured me. "Many of our photographers are parents. We understand the need for flexibility." The contrast between Jean's accommodation and Tyler's constant criticism was stark. In this new environment, my confidence slowly returned. I began to recognize myself again in the mirror, not just physically as my pregnancy progressed, but in my eyes, which had lost the haunted look I hadn't even realized they carried. 1 month before my due date, Tyler made his final desperate attempt to regain control. He filed an emergency petition for custody of our unborn child, claiming I was mentally unstable and had kidnapped his baby. The judge, a stern woman with decades of family court experience, reviewed the extensive documentation my lawyer presented: the pattern of emotional abuse, financial exploitation, and most recently harassment, in violation of the restraining order. "Mr. Peters," she addressed Tyler directly, "this court takes the welfare of children very seriously. From the evidence presented, you have demonstrated neither the stability nor the judgment required to share custody of an infant." The ruling was decisive. Tyler would be permitted only supervised visitation after the baby's birth, contingent on his completion of parenting classes and anger management therapy. Child support was ordered based on his previous salary, not his current unemployed status, a motivation the judge noted for him to find proper employment. Tyler stormed out of the courtroom, slamming the door behind him. It was the last time I saw him in person before the baby arrived. My daughter was born on a crisp October morning 2 weeks earlier than expected, but perfectly healthy. 7 pounds, 3 ounces of pure miracle, with a shock of dark hair and alert eyes that seemed to take in everything. "Hello, Lily," I whispered as she was placed on my chest, her tiny form warm against my skin. "I'm your mom. We're going to be okay." My parents were there, tearfully welcoming their granddaughter. My friend Rachel came bearing flowers and a handmade mobile for the baby's crib. The hospital staff, informed of my situation, ensured security was aware that Tyler was not permitted to visit without prior arrangement. He learned of Lily's birth through the automated notification my lawyer had arranged as part of our temporary custody agreement. Within hours, he was calling the hospital demanding to see his daughter. When informed he would need to schedule a supervised visit through the court-appointed service, he erupted in a tirade that resulted in hospital security being called. The incident was documented and added to our growing file, further diminishing his chances of unsupervised access to Lily. The first weeks of motherhood were exhausting, emotional, and entirely worth every moment. My parents' home became our sanctuary, a place where Lily and I could bond without fear or tension. I learned to nurse, to interpret her different cries, to function on minimal sleep. My mother was an invaluable support, stepping in when I needed rest, but never taking over. "You're a natural," she assured me as I doubted myself during a particularly fussy night. "Trust your instincts, they're good ones." Tyler exercised his supervised visitation rights exactly twice. Both times he arrived late, spent most of the hour complaining about the arrangement, and seemed completely disinterested in actually interacting with Lily. The supervisor's reports noted his inappropriate expectations of an infant and focus on his own grievances rather than the child's needs. After the second visit, he stopped scheduling appointments altogether. Instead, he began a social media campaign portraying himself as a victim of a biased court system that favored mothers over fathers. He posted selectively edited recordings of our conversations, old photos of us together with captions claiming I had abandoned our family, appeals for financial support from sympathetic strangers. Few people engaged with his posts. Those who knew us had seen enough of his behavior by then to recognize the manipulation. Those who didn't know us quickly lost interest in his repetitive complaints. My lawyer documented it all, building an ever stronger case for limiting his access to Lily. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding. When Lily was 3 months old, I returned to part-time work at the photography studio. Jean had set up a small area where I could bring Lily with me, a portable crib tucked discreetly in the corner of the editing room. "Clients love seeing her here," Jean remarked as Lily charmed everyone with her wide-eyed curiosity. "Some have specifically requested you for their family sessions because they want a photographer who understands children." My specialized niche emerged naturally: mothers and children with a particular sensitivity to capturing the complex emotions of motherhood. My portfolio grew, featuring images that portrayed not just the Instagram perfect moments, but the raw, tender, exhausted beauty of real maternal love. 6 months after Lily's birth, I was able to rent a small ground-floor apartment close to my parents. The space was modest but flooded with natural light, perfect for a growing baby and ideal for my at-home photo shoots. As I settled Lily into her crib in our new home that first night, I felt a sense of achievement that had nothing to do with Tyler or his absence. This place was ours, secured through my own efforts, a testament to how far I'd come from that pregnant woman struggling up 3 flights of stairs with groceries while her husband played video games. The final communication I received from Tyler came when Lily was 9 months old. Not a birthday card for his daughter, not an inquiry about her development, but a terse email. "I'm moving to Seattle for a gaming opportunity. Tell the lawyer to send the child support paperwork there. I still think you manipulated the court against me, but whatever. I've met someone who actually appreciates me." I forwarded the message to my lawyer without comment. Tyler's child support payments, irregular at best, stopped entirely 2 months later. My lawyer filed the appropriate motions, but with Tyler's pattern of unemployment and relocation enforcement proved challenging. It didn't matter. Lily and I were thriving without his contribution. By her first birthday, I had established a solid client base and consistent income. My photography series documenting our journey from survival to thriving had been featured in a small gallery showing focused on women's experiences. The exhibition, titled "Invisible Weights," resonated with many visitors who recognized their own stories in my images. "You've given voice to something many women experience but few discuss openly," one viewer commented, tears in her eyes. "Thank you for your courage." Courage. The word struck me. Was it courage that had propelled me up those 3 flights of stairs that final time? Was it courage that had kept me calm as I planned my escape? Or was it simply self-preservation, the fierce instinct to protect myself and my unborn child from harm? Perhaps it was both. 2 years after I left Tyler, Lily is a bright, confident toddler who knows nothing of the tension that surrounded her earliest days. She has my curls and determination, but thankfully none of her father's temperament. Tyler's involvement in her life remains minimal. He relocated again, this time to California, still chasing the elusive dream of gaming fame. His supervised visitation rights remain in place but unused. Child support payments arrive sporadically, usually after court intervention. I've found unexpected happiness in this life I've built from scratch. My photography business continues to grow, focused on capturing authentic moments for families and particularly single mothers. My client list includes several women from my support group, their journeys from abuse to independence documented through my lens. 6 months ago, I met Daniel at a playground where our children were playing. His daughter Emma, just a few months older than Lily, had insisted on sharing her bucket and shovel. We began talking as the girls played, discovering a shared love of photography, his hobby, my profession, and similar experiences with difficult former partners. Our friendship evolved slowly, cautiously. Daniel respected my boundaries, understanding the wariness that comes from past betrayal. He never pushed for more than I was ready to give content to build trust. One conversation, one shared coffee, one playdate at a time. Last month, he asked if he could take me to dinner. A real date with actual adult conversation. My parents happily offered to watch both girls. Sitting across from him at a small Italian restaurant, I realized how far I'd come from that day in the kitchen, when I smiled at Tyler and silently decided to leave. That smile had been a shield hiding my fear and determination. Now, smiling at Daniel as he animatedly described his daughter's latest adventure, my expression held something I had almost forgotten: genuine joy. "What?" he asked, noticing my thoughtful gaze. "Just appreciating the moment," I replied honestly. The journey from there to here wasn't easy. There were days when the weight of single parenthood felt crushing, nights when I questioned every decision, moments when Tyler's cruel words echoed in my memory. But those days grew fewer as I rebuilt my sense of self beyond Tyler's wife, or even Lily's mom, reclaiming Abigail, photographer, daughter, friend, woman of unexpected strength. If you're watching this and recognize your own situation in my story, please know you're not alone. The first step is the hardest, acknowledging that what you're experiencing isn't normal, isn't healthy, isn't love. The next steps get easier, especially when you reach out for help. I'm proof that there's life after emotional abuse, that you can rebuild from ashes, that your worth isn't determined by someone else's cruel words. 72 hours changed the trajectory of my life, but the journey of healing continues every day. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to see more stories of resilience and recovery. Share it with someone who might need to hear that escape is possible, that better days await on the other side of fear. And leave a comment if you found your own path to freedom. Your words might be the lifeline someone else needs today. Remember, you deserve respect. You deserve safety. You deserve love that builds you up instead of tearing you down. And it's never too late to start believing that.